black man who had helped us around the house and in the yard for the last 45 of his 90 years. I knew he had been in the military because he got his medical care at the VA, and it was excellent care. And I knew he had been in World War II, and I knew he had been in Italy, but he really didn't want to talk about that. My wife had suggested the first of the year, last year, that I interview him and tape it, which would have been a great thing to do, because I remember him reminiscing about, as a boy, riding a horse or a mule across what's now Metro Center to go swimming in the Cumberland, and going to the Saturday movies for 10 cents to watch Westerns all day. About working for Mrs. Morris of the Morris Furniture Company for about 20 years after the war, but I never got any information about the war. And then at his funeral, they had a program, and on it, it mentioned that he was in the 92nd Infantry Division, which I didn't know anything about. So I looked that up and discovered that that was an all-black unit. I looked a little further and found that it had its combat action in the Northern Italian campaign. Well, I didn't know anything about the Northern Italian campaign. I didn't know anything about Northern Italy geographically. So I got 3 Michelin maps: Central Italy, Northeast Italy, Northwest Italy. Every time I read about a town, I put a little red sticker in it. So now I have 3 Michelin maps that look like they had measles. What I want to do tonight is to first just sort of walk through the first half of this handout and very quickly go over the Northern Italian campaign. And when I say very quickly, I mean that, big brush strokes. Then I want to focus on Marshall's unit, the 92nd Infantry Division. When I get to that, I'm going to read it because I don't want to forget what's in it. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about him when we finish. Down on the bottom of page 2, I've tried to list prior presentations in this group pertinent to the Italian campaign. There's a good chance I may have overlooked some, but those are the ones I could glean out of that. If you look at the map on page 1, the salient thing to remember about Italy are the Apennine Mountains, which start up in the northwest and then march down the spine of the boot. And they're the crucial thing, really, for the entire Italian campaign, but in particular, as we'll see, I hope, the northern campaign. If you look at the battle lines on page 3, you see I've starred there Bari, which is where Dick Hart gave a report once, Salerno, Naples, Cassino. Ben gave a talk on Cassino, I know, Anzio, and Rome. And if you look at these battle lines, they're pretty compact, like an accordion that's been closed. And what that indicates is short distances between major battle lines. On the next page, I've tried to outline sort of the 4 areas we're going to be talking about tonight. Number 1, from Rome to the Arno. 2, the North Apennines. 3, the Po Valley. And then 4, Pisa to Genoa. And number 4 is where the 92nd was. The Northern Italian campaign lasted 11 months. On June 5th, Clark entered Rome. That was the day before D-Day in Normandy. After that, we spent 3 months getting to the Arno River. Then we spent 7 months trying to get across the North Apennines and the Gothic line. And then we spent 1 month going through the Po Valley to the Alps until surrender. Throughout the Italian campaign, the British Army was assigned the eastern part of Italy, and the U.S. Fifth Army was assigned the western part of Italy, and that held true throughout the northern campaign. The British had many more troops at this point than we did. A number of our troops had been siphoned off to go to southern France and to go to northern France. And Churchill had siphoned some off from the British troops to go to Greece, so that we were much less well staffed at this point than might have been. So in planning to get across the Apennines, the British were given the first go at this, because they had many more divisions than we did. So they were to try to go from the Arno River line up to Ravenna. The Germans felt that Fuda Pass was what we were going to try to get through from Florence as we aimed for Bologna. Bologna was a big communications center and really the key to the Po Valley. We were aware of this because of information from Ultra. What we did was, instead to go to Il Giorgio Pass, we got through that and then flanked around and took Fuda Pass, so that we did get through. But again, the defenses were horrendous. It was small group fighting, and was very, very, very difficult. This shows the Po Valley battle lines. Once across the Apennines, things went very, very speedily. In a month, we went from the other side of the Apennines to the Alps. And a lot of this was because once you got beyond the Apennines and towards the Po Valley, the land was much flatter. The Germans had destroyed most of the bridges on the Po, but our engineers were able to put pontoon and treadway bridges across it. And one big advantage we had was a disadvantage that the Axis had from their own commanders, including Hitler. They had been told to fight to the last man for every location. What the leaders on the field had wanted to do was to drop back and make the Po River its defense line, but Berlin wouldn't allow this. So that what happened was, we were able to move forward, cross the Po, come around on the north side of the Po, and isolate the German troops, the result of which we took 100,000 Axis prisoners in that area. We then moved quickly on up. Initially, we were quite afraid of the defenses that they had around Lake Garda. These defenses had been built along the same lines as World War I defenses, and were well placed, were ready But because Berlin had made the troops stay south and fight battle by battle, they couldn't get back there and staff it. So we really didn't have any sort of appreciable defenses to encounter there. And we went right on through, straight up to the Alps and took the Brenner Pass. These are some statistics relative to the total Italian campaign, southern and northern. There were a total of almost 190,000 casualties, of which almost 110,000 were USA casualties.